Hello, YouTube. Before you join iGenius, their protestations to the contrary notwithstanding, 2024 was a bad year. On the 28th of March, 2025, they released their Form 10-K to the SEC, which is their year-end report, which encompasses both the total year and the fourth quarter. They did not specifically address the fourth quarter, which is unusual for iGenius, but look, they get to write as long as they go through the motions of making disclosure, the SEC will probably leave them alone. Here's the bad news right here. In 2024, they did $47 million in iGenius subscriptions, down from $56 million. That's a loss of $8.9 million. Mining revenue, this is the big shocker, $5.1 million as opposed to $11.3 million. And we'll talk about what they say the reasons were. Interesting, they purchased Renew in October of 2024 and are already posting sales. This is probably from existing sales that the company that they purchased was already making. They're going to call it My Life Wellness or some such thing. And for some reason, they also are logging mining equipment revenue, which is probably accounts receivable because they shut down their mining equipment repair operation in calendar year 2023. That was in Tyler, Texas. Here's their operating cost. Well, when you're an MLM and you have a 24% reduction in subscriptions, your cost of sales, services, and commissions also go down. So they did experience a pretty sharp decline in operating expenses as well. And then for other expenses, they did an interesting accounting trick here. The $375,000 that they had to pay to the CFTC in January of 2025, they credited to 2024, which is actually not a bad idea. All of your bad news, all of your losses that you can reasonably attribute to a previous year, do it if you can get away with it. And they obviously thought that they could get away with it. And then there were, that's the only reason why I'm showing you this particular slide. Now, here are the excuses that iGenius InvestView gives itself. The $9 million or 16% decrease in membership revenue, that is subscriptions to iGenius, was largely attributable to a combination of shifts in consumer behavior and demand following the COVID-19 pandemic, as individuals reevaluated their spending priorities, lifestyle habits, and engagement preferences, as well as broader global macroeconomic changes that have caused a general slowdown in direct sales and home-based business. I agree with that completely. That is the reason. They don't specify what those broader global macroeconomic changes are, but I suspect that, well, the anti-MLM movement has something to do with it, but not entirely. It could just be that the so-called fintech boom is over and is possibly doing the dwindles. Now, to continue the paragraph, this trend reflects broader market changes and has impacted overall participation and retention rates, basically the same thing. Okay, here they're going to talk about their mining woes. The 6.1 million or 54% decrease in mining revenue was the result of Bitcoin halving, which occurred on April 19th, 2024, decreasing the reward to 3.125 Bitcoin per block solved from the previous reward rate of 6.25 Bitcoin per block. An increase in Bitcoin network difficulty and mandated power curtailment enforced by the government-controlled utility companies in Northern Europe, by which they mean Iceland, partially offset by an increase in the price of Bitcoin. And they are not selling their poop coin Endau anymore. Well, A viewer asked me, so I'm now going to talk about l'affaire TPP. This is a Total Protection Plus, which was a virtually unknown and, as it turns out, fraudulent insurance company hired by InvestView iGenius in 2019 and 2020 to insure the also fraudulent Apex mining program and their poop coin Endow, respectfully. Now, as claims began to roll in for recovery of Apex losses and the withdrawal of Endow, TPP predictably disappeared. Now, this is interesting, compelling, and inexplicable. Hopefully, somebody will take a stab at trying to explain this to me. On 28 March 2025, which is the same day that InvestView iGenius released their Form 10-K for 2024, they sued TPP in Delaware for failure to honor commitments. In other words, they paid all these premiums and none of their insured got any recovery money. And that's because TPP are grifters. Now, my take is that InvestView iGenius should have known that they were dealing with grifters at TPP, and they will never recover the premiums. They probably should have just taken the L and walked away. So here's the wrap up for 2024. InvestView iGenius had a bad year, like most MLMs did, to be fair. They were absolutely correct about the reasons for their decline. They did make some questionable purchases, particularly Renew, for which they paid $1.8 million. And this may come back to bite them. Time will tell. Their timing to sue TPP was odd. I don't get why they waited almost 4 years to file and why they decided to announce it on the day that they file their 10K. Who knows? And probably the only other really big event of 2024 was the stock buyback, which they needed to do to face delisting on the over-the-counter QB market. Folks, your skills, knowledge, and experience are valuable. They are way too valuable to waste in an MLM. And that's all I got, and I'll see you in the next one.